Let's be honest, saying no is terrifying. For many of us, the word no feels heavier than it should. It's just two letters, one syllable, but it can carry the weight of guilt, shame, and fear. So why is that? Why does such a small word cause such a big reaction inside us? The truth is, most of us have been conditioned since childhood to believe that good people say yes. Think about it. When you were a kid, how many times did you hear, be polite, don't hurt their feelings, share your toys, do as you're told? Somewhere along the way, many of us got the message that our worth is tied to being agreeable, likable, and accommodating. And as adults, that belief still lives in us. We equate no with selfishness. We fear that if we say no, people will think we're rude, unkind, or ungrateful. So we swallow our discomfort and say yes. Yes to the project we don't have time for. Yes to the invitation when all we want is rest. Yes to the family obligation that drains our spirit. Here's what's really happening. Every time we avoid saying no, we're trying to control how others see us. It's people-pleasing dressed up as kindness. But here's the hard truth. People-pleasing isn't kindness, it's fear. It's the fear of rejection, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of losing love or approval. Let me share a story. I once spoke with a woman who was exhausted beyond words. She worked full-time, volunteered every weekend, helped her parents, drove her kids everywhere, and even baked cupcakes for her neighbor's birthday. She admitted she hadn't had a day to herself in years. When I asked her why she didn't say no to at least some of these requests, she whispered, "Because I don't want to let anyone down." That sentence hit me like a ton of bricks. Because how many of us live with that same quiet burden? We equate saying no with letting people down. But the deeper truth is that constantly saying yes is a way of letting ourselves down. And here's the paradox. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values or capacity, you are unintentionally saying no to yourself. You're saying no to your rest, no to your dreams, no to your mental health. You're trading your well-being for someone else's temporary comfort. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. But Brené, if I start saying no, won't people get angry? Won't they think I'm cold or selfish? And yes, some people might, especially the ones who are used to you always saying yes. But let me offer you this perspective. If someone's love or respect for you is dependent on you abandoning yourself, is that really love? Is that really respect? The reason we're afraid to say no isn't because the word itself is dangerous. It's because of the story we attach to it. We tell ourselves, if I say no, they'll stop loving me. If I say no, I'll be rejected. If I say no, I'll be alone. But here's what research and experience have taught me. When you say no with honesty and integrity, you may lose people who were never truly in your corner to begin with, but you will gain something much more valuable. You'll gain self-trust. You'll gain peace. You'll gain clarity about who's really in your life because of who you are, not because of what you do for them. Saying no isn't a rejection. It's a declaration. It's saying, I know my limits. I honor my energy. I value myself enough to protect what matters most. And that's not selfish, that's sacred. So the first step is awareness. Notice the fear that rises in you when you want to say no. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Is it true, or is it just fear talking? When you start to challenge those old stories, you'll begin to see that no isn't the end of connection, it's the beginning of authentic connection. Because only when we learn to say no from a place of courage can our yes actually mean something. Here's something we rarely talk about. Every yes has a cost. Every single one. When we say yes to something outside of us, we are always saying no to something inside of us. And if we're not careful, those constant yeses become a debt we can never repay. Let me tell you what I mean. I once worked with a man in his late 40s. By all outside measures, he was successful. He had a stable career, a big family, and a wide circle of friends. But when he sat in my office, he looked empty, tired, burned out. He told me, Brené, I've spent my entire life saying yes. Yes to my parents' expectations. Yes to my boss's impossible deadlines. Yes to every friend who needed help moving. Every committee, every charity event. And now, I don't even know who I am anymore. That broke my heart, because he wasn't alone. So many of us spend years, sometimes decades, being professional yes-sayers. We give and give and give, until there's nothing left inside us but resentment. And then we wonder why we feel disconnected, bitter, or invisible. Here's the reality. When yes becomes your default response, you are no longer living your own life. You are living everyone else's. You are outsourcing your purpose, your energy, and your identity to other people's demands. And that is a recipe for exhaustion and emptiness. Think about it. How many dreams have been abandoned because someone was too busy saying yes to everyone else's requests? How many marriages have grown distant because one partner never had the energy left to nurture intimacy? How many bodies have broken down under the weight of stress? All because someone didn't feel permission to rest. The cost of always saying yes is not just your time, it's your health, your joy, your sense of self. Research shows that chronic people-pleasing leads to higher levels of anxiety, depression, and burnout. Because your nervous system is constantly in overdrive, trying to manage everyone else's expectations while ignoring your own. And here's something that might surprise you. Saying yes all the time doesn't even earn you the respect or love you're hoping for. In fact, it often does the opposite. When people know you'll always say yes, they stop valuing your time. They stop seeing your generosity as a gift and start treating it as an obligation. Your yes becomes invisible, just expected. And the more you give, the less they see. One of the hardest truths I've had to learn and teach is this: resentment is the price of fake harmony. Every time you force a yes to avoid conflict, you're planting a seed of resentment. And resentment always grows. It shows up in passive-aggressive comments, in withdrawal, in bitterness. You can't build authentic relationships on a foundation of resentment. So, what's the alternative? Does that mean we stop helping people altogether? Of course not. What it means is that our yes needs to come from a place of integrity, not fear. A wholehearted yes feels different. It's rooted in generosity, not obligation. It energizes you instead of draining you. But you can't get to those wholehearted yeses without first being willing to say no. Because the truth is, your yes only has meaning when your no is an option. The man I told you about earlier, after months of hard work, finally began experimenting with no. At first, it was shaky. He'd say, "I'm sorry, I can't make it," and then feel guilty for hours. But over time, he noticed something. The world didn't collapse. His family still loved him. His friends adjusted. His boss even respected him more for drawing clear boundaries. And slowly, that emptiness inside him began to fill again, with creativity, with joy, with a sense of self he thought he'd lost forever. So let me ask you, what has your constant yes been costing you? Your health, your relationships, your peace of mind? Because until you're honest about the cost, you'll keep writing checks your soul can't cash. The cost of always saying yes is a life half lived. And you, my friend, deserve more than half a life. If saying yes all the time costs us our peace, our energy, and our sense of self, then here's the good news: saying no can give all of that back and more. Because every courageous no you speak is actually an invitation to freedom, an invitation to respect. Let me explain. I once spoke with a young leader in a corporate training. She said, "Brené, I feel like I have to say yes to every opportunity, or people won't take me seriously. If I say no, they'll think I'm lazy or uncommitted." I asked her, "What do you think happens if you keep saying yes to everything?" She paused and then whispered, "I disappear." That word, disappear, is powerful. Because when we never say no, we become invisible. Our lives stop being about what we stand for and start being about what others want from us. But here's the paradox. The moment you begin to say no with honesty and courage, you stop disappearing. You become visible. You show people who you really are and what you really value. And that's when respect enters the room. Think about the people in your life you deeply respect. Chances are, they're not the ones who always said yes. They're the ones who knew their limits. They're the ones who stood for something, who set boundaries, who showed you what mattered to them. We don't respect people for being endlessly available. We respect them for being authentic. And here's the second gift of no freedom. When you say no, you're not just closing a door. You're opening space. Space for rest. Space for creativity. Space for relationships that nourish you instead of deplete you. One of my research participants once said, "Every time I say no, I feel like I'm betraying someone. But every time I say yes when I don't mean it, I feel like I'm betraying myself." That stuck with me. Because the real betrayal isn't in disappointing someone else, it's in abandoning ourselves. And here's the part we don't talk about enough. People may not like your no, but they will respect it. In fact, many will start trusting you more. Why? Because when your no is honest, your yes becomes trustworthy. If I know you're willing to say no, then when you say yes to me, I can believe you mean it. That creates stronger, healthier relationships built on authenticity, not obligation. Now, I won't pretend this is easy. Saying no takes courage. It requires sitting with discomfort. It means tolerating the possibility of someone's disapproval, and that's hard. But remember, disapproval is temporary. Regret is permanent. Let's flip the question for a moment. Instead of asking, "What will they think if I say no?" ask, "What will I think of myself if I keep saying yes?" Because at the end of the day, the relationship you have to live with the longest is the one you have with yourself. Here's something practical. You don't need to explain or justify every no. A simple, clear sentence is enough. "I can't take that on right now. Thank you, but I'm not available." The more you over-explain, the more you invite negotiation. A grounded no doesn't require a courtroom defense. The real magic happens when you discover that no is not a wall, it's a doorway. It doesn't shut people out, it invites the right people in. It filters out relationships built on control, guilt, and manipulation. And it makes space for relationships rooted in mutual respect and trust. So the next time you're tempted to say yes, just to avoid discomfort, I want you to remember this. Every no is a yes to something greater, a yes to your peace, a yes to your purpose, a yes to the life you were meant to live. No is not rejection. No is redirection. And sometimes the most loving, courageous thing you can do for yourself and for others is to simply bravely say no. So here we are. We've explored why we're afraid to say no. We've uncovered the cost of always saying yes. And we've seen how no can build respect and freedom. Now the question is this: will you choose courage, or will you keep choosing guilt? Because here's the thing, guilt will always come knocking. Every time you say no, guilt will whisper, "You're letting them down. You're being selfish. They won't like you anymore." And it will feel real. Guilt is sneaky like that. It masquerades as responsibility. But guilt is not the truth. Guilt is just the echo of old conditioning, the voice of fear dressed up as obligation. Courage, on the other hand, sounds quieter at first. It says, "This is hard, but it's right. This might disappoint them, but it will honor me. This no will hurt for a moment, but it will heal for a lifetime." Let me share a story. A friend of mine was invited to join the board of a large nonprofit. On paper, it was a dream opportunity. Prestigious, meaningful, impressive. But deep down, she knew she didn't have the bandwidth. Her work, her family, her health. Something would break if she said yes. She wrestled for weeks, torn between guilt and courage. Finally, she wrote a polite but firm decline. And when she pressed send, she burst into tears. Not tears of regret, tears of relief. Because for the first time in a long time, she had chosen herself. She had honored her limits. And that no gave her back something priceless: peace. That's the choice we all face every day. Do we keep betraying ourselves for the comfort of others, or do we step into the discomfort of courage so we can live in alignment with who we truly are? I want you to imagine something. Imagine a world where everyone only said yes when they meant it. Imagine how much trust would grow, how many resentments would dissolve, how many relationships would flourish, because they were built on truth, not obligation. Imagine how much lighter you would feel if every yes came from love, not fear. Here's what I know from 2 decades of research. Courage is contagious. When you say no with integrity, you don't just change your life. You give permission for others to do the same. You teach your kids, your friends, your colleagues that boundaries are not walls, they're bridges. You model what it looks like to live a life that is not defined by guilt, but by grounded, wholehearted courage. And I'll be honest with you, this isn't a one-time decision. You don't choose courage over guilt once and never struggle again. You choose it daily, in small ways. You choose it when you decline that extra project you don't have the capacity for. You choose it when you protect your rest instead of chasing approval. You choose it when you remind yourself that no is not rejection, it's self-respect. So as we close, I want to leave you with a promise. Saying no will not make you less lovable. It will not make you less kind. It will not make you less worthy. Saying no will make you honest. It will make you courageous. It will make you free. And here's the most important part. Every courageous no you speak makes space for a truer, deeper, wholehearted yes. A yes to joy. A yes to rest. a yes to purpose, a yes to love. So the next time guilt comes knocking, I want you to pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, am I choosing guilt or am I choosing courage? Because your life, your freedom, your peace, they all hang in the balance of that choice. Choose courage every single time.